And hi, Sirin. How you doing?
Hello, Fatebinder.
Hi.
What do you need?
What do you think of our travel companions?
Are we trading in gossip now, Fatebinder? Or are you collecting information to use against us?
When you say us, are you talking about you?
What do you want to know about?
What do you think about Eb?
She's got some power in there, that's for sure. And as long as I'm crippled, I will, begrudgingly mind you, admit she could probably win if we were pitted against each other.
Okay.
Although I'm more than happy to give her a try. Are you game, Eb? Think you could take me out?
I'm sorry, sweetie. I'm confused. Are you offering me a duel or something a little more down and dirty?
Wow.
You know what I meant.
Sirin puts her hand on her headdress and looks at Eb, chewing on the corners of her mouth.
Oh, don't worry, dear. You're far too young for me. I like someone with a little wear and tear on them. And not just up here.
She puts her hand on her head and winks again. Okay.
Though I suppose I should watch myself around her. You never know how people will react to a challenge.
What do you think about Lantry?
I'm jealous of him. I've heard so much about the Vellum Citadel, and he actually got to see it before all the unpleasantness.
She trails off, a sour expression on her face, her wiggling fingers miming tiny explosions.
The sheer amount of power lost that day is only dwarfed by the amount of power required to cause the destruction, and the power to stop it. The sages have my respect. And, by extension, Lantry. Although, I'm not overly happy it was sage magic they used to bind my tongue when I was a child. I can hardly hold him responsible for that.
How kind of you, my lady. It's heartening to hear that someone of your immense station considers a lowly sage like me to be worthy of your attention.
Lantry performs a deep bow to Sirin.
Although not all sages are necessarily worthy of praise. Some are a little overly fond of excesses, of one kind or another.
What about Barrick?
The walking ring pile?
Yep.
Let's hope you never have to go anywhere unnoticed. There's nothing particularly wrong with him, I suppose, but he doesn't seem overly bright. I mean, what kind of idiot do you have to be if you can't even take off your armor? Maybe he's pretty, but wrapped in that getup, who can tell?
She looks at Barrick, smiles, waves, and blows him a kiss.
What was that you said? I couldn't quite hear you.
Barrick grunts, turning to face Sirin.
It's okay, Barrick. I didn't say anything about anyone important.
She speaks slowly and deliberately, patting him gently on the shoulder. She then puts her hand to mouth, suppressing a small giggle.
I'll admit he can handle himself in a fight, but he could use a little more up here.
She taps the side of her head. Okay.
What do you need?
What do you think about the state of the world? What is there to say? Karis's major leaders can't stop themselves or their armies from fighting like a bunch of children. Neither of them is capable of dealing with the rebels that they are taking down. That are taking them down, which, as far as I'm concerned, is how it should be. The less of the tears infected by Kairos, the better. If we could eliminate the armies entirely, I would consider that a true victory. Whose side are you on? Tell me what you know about the edicts. Anything I would say would be a wild guess. That's why I'm with you. You seem to have a connection to the power of this land, far beyond anything an Archon is capable of. It intrigues me. I want to learn what that is and harness it. Sadly, I don't have the magic needed to enact or break an edict. You're an Archon. You must know something about edicts, Sirin. You'd think that, wouldn't you? With all my training and education, Kairos left a very big void in all of it. In it all, rather. Almost like it is intentional.
What do you need?
Do you know anything about going on in the tiers? I know a great deal about what's going on here, considering I'm the root cause of at least half of it. What do you want to know? What do you think about Tunon? He makes me uncomfortable. There's nothing behind that mask. It's dark and empty. What do you mean? Everyone has a presence. It's how my magic works. I reach to them and convince their presence to do what I want. He has no presence. When I reached into him, there was nothing. It was bleak. I never want to feel that again. If you have to reach into someone's mind to control them, how do you influence entire armies to do what you want? I can't influence an army, but I can persuade them to feel the way I want to. If I want to get someone to do a specific thing for me, I have to get inside their head, and that requires that requires a lot more effort. No one can keep me out, but if they're aware of what I'm doing, I can't force them to do anything. At least not with this thing on my head. She knocked a hand against her helmet. Really, I don't know how it works. It just does. You might as well ask me where lightning comes from. I want to know more about Kairos. What do you want to know? How did you come to work for Kairos? After my father betrayed me and got my mother killed, I was taken by Kairos' bin. I honestly don't know where we went, other than it seemed to take forever to get there. Then I was put in school. It was a wonderful and horrible time. I learned to control and maximize my power, but they understood my abilities, or overestimated theirs. I think it was more the latter than the former. They unleashed my true power. Did they believe I wouldn't try to run with it? They tried to train and mold me, and in that they succeeded. They also tried to brainwash and break me, and in that they failed spectacularly. But I was punished for it. How were you punished? They wanted to cut out my tongue. Even at 8, I didn't blame them. It's what I would have done. But Kairos said no, doing possibly the one kind act she ever did for me. Without the power of speech, I was essentially useless. So they muzzled me. They simply knew holding my mouth shut wasn't going to be sufficient, so they got creative. Using sage magic, they put my mouth in stasis when I wasn't in class. I could go through the motions of speech, but nothing came out. Oh, did they take pleasure in it? Between classes, they gave me chores, they berated me, they beat me, I was their slave. The only reason I lived was by Kairos' whim, but I was tortured by everyone else's. There were at least 2 teachers in my class after the incident, and I was always accompanied by 2 guards, both of whom had been deafened, so I couldn't affect them. I accidentally killed one man, and they were acting like I destroyed a realm. I suppose that's what they thought I'd do next, and who knows, maybe that's what I'm about to do. Why were you punished? They assumed my abilities were exaggerated. They were powerful mages who spent years training their art. How could a little girl ever hope to rival their prowess? I grew tired of their condescension. Condescension, rather. I hated them for treating me like a child. Their rules, their discipline, their training. They'd killed my mother, and I would make them pay for it. One day, I got bored in class. The teacher's droning voice was putting me to sleep in the afternoon heat, so I thought I'd have a little fun. He was distracted and let his defenses down. He didn't consider me a threat. Go on. I started humming. Nothing that would attract his attention, of course. A lullaby my mother sang to me. Fitting, I thought, to invade this man's mind of the song taught to me by the woman they destroyed. I could tell I got inside of him when he slowed down ever so slightly. I started singing wordlessly, standing, working in hand motions. They were completely unnecessary, but I had been trained to be a performer. Then I worked in my words. The window, I sang to him. Look, what's at the window? He turned, entranced, stared outside, his mouth moving silently as he dreamed an answer to my question. What's out there? I asked him through my song. What could that be? I was elated. The fool had left himself alone and vulnerable, and this 8-year-old had dominated his mind. He walked to the window, intently staring at something I couldn't see. You made him jump, didn't you? Of course. I didn't mean for him to fall. He was just looking out the window and reached up, as if to touch whatever he was looking at, and before I could stop him, he was gone. It looked like he was trying to catch something as he fell from sight. I won't say I'm sorry he died. He was a horrible man, and I didn't mean to do it. However, I was elated. The taste of power was intoxicating. I didn't get to taste it again for a long time. What was life like with Kairos? For several years, I was surrounded by people who would smile in my face and then sneer when I turned away. They were supposed to be my mentors, my teachers, but all they did was resent me. They taught me to refine and control my voice. The power became more directed, more powerful, more subtle. I no longer needed to specifically say what I wanted people to do. I could just think what I wanted, how I felt. And the weaker the mind, the faster they would respond. It still required me to sing, or at the very least make music with my voice. But I could say one thing, means something else entirely, and the magic worked. Everything was done for Kairos' edification. They asked for signs of her power, and I was used to bring them about. People praised my name to the extent that was allowed. But if the focus of adoration ever truly pointed toward me, it was quickly stifled. I didn't see much of Kairos. She was busy taking care of her affairs, but I was never allowed to forget by whose power I was allowed to exist. I was paraded around like the new jewel, and since I had real power, it took a while for the luster to fade. But when I was tarnished, I corroded through, and when I stopped being a pleasant distraction, I was passed off to Nerat to be forgotten. How long did you work for Kairos? 5 years. 2 years of dedicated training. 2 years with training interspersed with travel, performing miracles in Kairos' name. Then a year being his, okay, pet. What do you think of Kairos? Honestly, I didn't really think of him at all first. If I wasn't getting daily reminders that he owned me and he could have killed me anytime he wanted, I would have completely forgotten he existed. Don't misunderstand me. I despise him. It's because of him I don't have a family. It's because of him my mother is dead. It's because of him I'm here instead of anywhere else. But as a child, I was too busy to interact with him much. I was kept too busy to interact with him much. Oh, hello. This actually comes up. That's interesting. Thank goodness, too, so it's not like typos. Wait a minute. You've called Kairos both him and her. Did I? How clumsy of me. Must have been a slip of the tongue. She smiles mischievously. Is Kairos a man or a woman? You really don't know, do you? That's fascinating. I assumed Fate Finder would have been given audience with him. It doesn't seem like... that's funny. It doesn't seem like she'd let you perform actions in his name without speaking to you. That's part of the mystique, isn't it? If your enemies don't know anything about you, how can they properly plan? So why would Kairos let anything else that he didn't want the world to know? Tell me, Sirin. No. A lady has to keep some secrets, and this is going to be mine. It feels good to have some power in this relationship. It's not going to matter once you defeat him anyway. She'll be gone. Okay. I know a great deal about what's going on here. Okay. How long have you been here? Since the beginning of the occupation. Kairos wanted me out of sight, but still in use. So I was given a Nerat. It used me to gather fodder for the chorus. What can you tell? What about the other groups in the tiers? What do you want my opinion on? I don't even know what the Stone Stalker tribe is. It's the Stone Stalkers of Azure. They must be beastmen then. Tell me about the local rebel groups. Oh, interesting. What group do you want me to talk about? Tell me about the Vendrian Guard. Are they even still pertinent? After the events of Vendrian's Well, I would have thought no one would want to talk about them anymore. Tell me about the Unbroken. I haven't had much exposure to them. Ash was intent on dealing with that problem, so they didn't ask for my help. Tell me about the Bronze Brotherhood. They're not the most helpful people, but they seem like they want what's best for Lethian's Crossing. Okay. Plus, it was a lot easier for me to recruit my own followers with them around. I didn't have to worry about anyone being taken by the Scarlet Chorus or killed by the Disfavored. Interesting. Tell me about any of the Mages Guild. Generally, I don't like throwing in with the other mages. I've not had a good experience with them in the past, so I keep my distance. And they're so demanding. You ask them very nicely, I might add, how to cast a spell, and they insist they're not a charity, and they're not going to hand over their secrets out of the goodness of their heart. Right. Like, there was anything good about that one. And I didn't even use my magic on him. That's gratitude for you. She trails off and gives you an intent look. Suddenly your head feels like it's too small for your brain. She closes her eyes, takes a breath, and the feeling dissipates. What do you want to talk about? The Earthshakers. Incredibly powerful, but strangely focused on their studies. Why would you want to pour your energy into one thing? Branch out. The magic they're missing out on is incredible. Tell me about the Sages. I can't say I'm too happy with them since it was their magic that found my voice when I was a child, but they are an influential group with infinite knowledge. At least they were. Can you imagine how powerful you could become if you had access to their collections? Tell me about the Forge Bound. The group that Kairos used to make my hovel. The less I have to think about them, the better. They might be good craftsmen, but unless they craft me away out of this prison, I'll let you deal with them, thank you. Tell me about the Stone Stalker tribe. Not even worthy of my attention. A beast is a beast, and you can't make an animal be anything more than what it is. Okay. What can you tell me about the Scarlet Chorus? If I never talk to another chorus member in my entire life, I will consider it a success. No matter what else happens, she folds her arms across her chest and levels a steely gaze at you. What do you want to know? What was it like working with them? Well, at first, I was treated like a queen. I spent all my time recruiting, and let's be honest, the Scarlet Chorus isn't choosy, so it's easy to convince people to join. Toward the end, I actually started fearing for my life. With this thing on my head, I couldn't effectively control an entire army, so hobbling me was quite an intelligent thing for Kairos to do. If anyone had realized I couldn't hold them all back, I would have been in big trouble. Your little stunt in Vengeance Well couldn't have come at a better time. What's your opinion on their methods? They randomly grab anyone and anything they can get their hands on and hope they'll help and hope it'll work if they beat them enough. Sounds like the makings of a fantastic army to me. I'm repulsed by them and everything they do. Nerat is a disgusting excuse for a leader, and I look forward for the day I can watch the life train from its insane eyes. Am I being clear enough for you, Fatebinder? What do you think of them? I'd have thought my look of disgust kind of answered that question, Fatebinder. They're a worthless, hopeless, disorganized bunch of savages who soon will tear themselves apart from the inside. You weren't a member of the chorus? What? Absolutely not. The only reason I worked with them is because I was being forced to. Once Kairos had this monstrosity placed on my head, I really had no choice. I'm not powerful enough to force them to let me go, and they had the numbers to overwhelm me if I tried anything, so I did what I was told until you showed up. What do you think about this favor? I don't really know much about them, Fatebinder, and I never got the chance to work with them, so I don't think I'll be much help on this topic. What do you think of Graven Ash? He seems capable enough. He's organized and truly cares about his men, contrary to practically everyone else I've met here. Have you seen them in action? Briefly, in a few battles of during Kairos' conquest, but Nerat liked to keep me locked up tight, so I never got a good look at them fighting. You never worked with them? Not directly, but I've been used to inspire people occasionally, and as favored were in those groups. But if you're looking for anything of merit from me on this favor, I'm not gonna be much use to you. Okay, well.
What do you need?
I want to know more about you. What do you want to know? Tell me about that headdress. It's the bane of my existence and something that's incredibly painful to talk about, so why not? What does it do? It makes me impotent. Do you have any idea what it's like to have a hurricane raging inside of you? To feel the gale crashing against you to only be released, but to be released, but only feel a gentle summer's breeze. Kairos and Nerat made it just for me. If I attempt anything more powerful in a simple tune, it will kill me. Isn't that simply wonderful? Honestly, to be so terrified of a mere child. Why do you have it? I might have tried to kill Kairos once. He and Nerat decided I posed too much of a threat, so they muzzled me. I was their attack dog, and they pulled out my teeth. You could hardly be surprised if the dog tries to bite you if that's all you teach him to do. Why can't you simply take it off? Gee, Fatebinder, I never would have thought of that. Here, can you unclasp it for me so I can get out of it? Because I'll die if it isn't removed the proper way, you simpleton. Do you think I'd leave it on otherwise? If you can't take it off, then why did you try to get me to remove it when we met? How could someone so powerful be so stupid? I knew you wouldn't be able to remove it. That's not what I was trying to do. You're a Fatebinder. You honestly think I was going to pass up the opportunity to try and control a Fatebinder? Yes? How do you know you'll die if you remove it? Because I doubt Nerat and Kairos would go through all the trouble just to play a trick on me. Something this subtle, elaborate, and long-lasting really isn't their style. Isn't really their style. At least not Nerat's. Plus, Nerat told me the helmet would kill me if I removed it, and while it might be a lying monster, it loves telling the truth if the truth causes an extra bit of pain. You believe... well, I'm actually not gonna say that. What would it take to remove it? What would it take to remove it? Someone beating the information out of Nerat or Kairos. They're the only ones who know how it was constructed and how it works. I may ask people to remove it, but I know they won't be able to. That's not going to stop me from trying, though. Why the headdress? Why not use magic to gag you? They tried magic. It didn't really work. The problem is spells can be broken. Counter spells can be found. Guards can be bribed. People can have accidents. Nerat and Kairos are the only ones who really know how to remove this without killing me. The answer is locked somewhere in Nerat's insane and Kairos' currently not conveniently located heads. Let's talk about something else. Tell me about your homeland. What's there to say? It's a fuzzy memory, hardly worth recalling. I was born in a northern farming village without a name. That's how out of the way we were. A bunch of families ended up settling near each other, and that was my village. It was about 20 miles from Shadow's Rest, and you probably haven't heard of that either. We were farmers, poor and isolated. Nothing about my home or my past is worth dwelling on, Fatefinder. I barely remember my father. My mother's dead. The only thing people ever wanted from me was my song. The girl is powerful. Bring the songbird. We need a blessing. Our crops are withering. Where's that bitch done? What has that bitch done? Our crops are withering. What has that bitch done? Her voice falters with the last statement, and she shivers a little. Nothing in your path is worth dwelling on. It looks to me like you remember something. I suppose when an angry mob that fears you and what you do stones your mother to death while she shields you with her body, it sticks with you. Tell me about your mother's death. No, Fatebinder, I can't. Please, don't make me talk about it. Her voice trembles and tears well up in her eyes. Okay. I won't ever ask. Thank you. There are some things that are just too powerful to remember. Too painful to remember, rather. What do you want to know? Do you have any siblings? No, but I was close to a boy in my village for a time, but his mother stopped letting me play with him. When everyone realized what my powers were, that's the closest thing I ever had to a living sibling. A dour expression clouds her face. A living sibling? My brother died very young. I never knew him, so I hardly count him as a sibling. Life in the middle of nowhere is difficult. For a single child to survive, let alone more, is a testament to the parents. She looks at you for a time, her lips a thin line. Her eyes glow red and tears form in her lids. Finally, she nods slowly and breaks her silence. I remember my mother talking about getting me a little brother. It wasn't long after I started singing and my power started growing. She told me that it would soon be too hard for her to travel with me. Sirin, sweetie, she said, you'll have to go with your daddy. It wouldn't be good for the baby if I kept traveling like that. Maybe after your brother is out here with us, we could all travel together. Sirin looks out of her eyes and her voice breaking. You didn't like traveling with your father? No, all he wanted was the money. When we were on the road, he completely ignored me. I was something simply to earn rings with, a tool. The farmers in my village used their rakes and wagons. My father used my voice. Everyone wanted the songbird to sing for them, and they paid us so much money. So we went. But I didn't want to go without my mother. She was the only real comfort I had. When I was with her, I felt safe. Nothing could hurt me. There was always a trip coming up, so I knew she wouldn't be going, but I couldn't bear the thought of all those days in the care of my father. There was a trip coming up, rather. Her voice breaks again, and she closes her eyes. So, I sang to my baby brother. I told him we were all waiting for him. I told him we needed to be a family so we could travel together. I told him he should come out. I told him he should come out now. I don't know if I meant for it to happen, but I sang the words so no one could resist my voice. My mother's scream cut the song short, and the blood, it was everywhere. I was dragged from the room, but I don't remember who took me. I only remember staring at my foot for the rest of the afternoon. The pattern soaked into my shoe, the splatter across the tops of my toes. I couldn't bring myself to clean it off. I just looked at it. How long had your mother been pregnant? Not long enough for my brother to survive. Maybe he could have. I don't know. The problem is, when I told him he had to come out, I didn't mean I wanted him out alive. I don't think he would have survived even if it was time for my mother to give birth. People came and went all that day. There's a lot of crying, and nobody looked at me the same. Nobody looked at me the same way after that. My mother told me things like this happen all the time, but even at 5, I knew what I had done, and part of me was happy. I wanted my mother back, and I got her. She still loved me. She died protecting me, but I terrified her. Every time I opened my mouth, I could see her flinch, and after my brother died, she was never around when I sang. She couldn't bear to watch me. Wow. You were taken from your family? Technically, by the time I was taken, there was no family left to be taken from. But Kairos' forces had gotten word about my talents and decided I was better used taking over the world than helping local farmers. You had no family left? You have no family left? What happened? What do you think? They're dead. My family might have not. My father might have not cared about me, about us, but my mother would have never let anyone take me while she lived. Without anyone to protect me, I was whisked off to Kairos' court. How would you describe your father? Worthless, hopeless, devoid of human emotion? Sometimes I feel like we were complete opposites. He seemed incapable of feeling anything, and I seemed to be nothing but raw emotion. Nerat let it slip that my father sold me to Kairos and responsible for my mother's death. Someone had to egg the crowd on, and someone had to tell Kairos' men where I was. Not that it mattered. He's dead, and I'm better off without him. Tell me about your father's death. He disappeared after my mother died, and I was kidnapped. I didn't hear anything about him for the longest time, so I assumed he disappeared and I would never see him again. Then someone brought word that he'd been found. He killed himself. Now he's out of my life. For someone who has a lot to say, is there more? You're a relentless fate minder. Did you ever think maybe there are some things I want to keep to myself? But yes, you're right, there's more to the story. When I got word he'd been found, I had him summoned to Kairos' court. I wanted to see the man who condemned me to the life I was leading. When he arrived, I went to see him privately. I wasn't sure what I would feel. Anger? Hatred? I didn't expect apathy. For the first time in my life, I felt nothing. Standing there, staring at the man who ruined my life, waiting for him to notice me, my heart was dull and disinterested. Then he looked up and smiled. He smiled when he saw me. Can you believe that? He smiled and opened his arms to me, arms to hug me, and it felt like someone reached in my chest and squeezed my heart, sending hate through my veins. So I sang him a song. I told him how tired he looked, how haggard he seemed. I spoke of the weariness he must feel, the guilt that surely plagued him every day. I asked him how he withstood the weight of his betrayal. The burden must be too much to bear. I watched the tears roll down his cheek as he pulled the dagger from his belt, the sobs that tore from him as he held it before him, thinking about his wife and child, the look of ecstatic relief on his face as he dragged the blade across his neck. You made him kill himself. That's horrible. We've all done things we regret, Fate Binder, but this is not one of them. My father was a terrible man who finally heard the song he should have killed himself. He finally heard the song that he should have killed himself 5 years earlier. Now you know what happened to my father. As I told you before, he killed himself, and that's it. What do you remember about your mother? She's dead, so I don't have much to remember. She loved me, that much I know, but I sometimes wonder if what she felt was love or fear. Fear for me, or fear or of me, and sometimes I don't think there's a difference between the two. My mother loved me when no one else did, and when no one else could. The world wanted nothing but my voice, but all my mother wanted was my happiness. She was the only person in my life that did. What do you remember about your family? Okay, never mind. How long have you been practicing magic? Always. I have no memory of being without the power. It has been my driving force, and I'm who I am because of it. Every defining moment of my life is because of my voice and the power behind it. I've become what it made me, and it is what I've done with it. Tell me about your time with the voice of Nerat. You're not worthy to hear such personal tales. Don't play with me, child. I'm not playing. The story is private, and it's going to remain that way. Ask all you want, you will never hear it. Okay.
What do you need?
You have a way with words, Sirin. Were you instructed on how to speak with others? Of course. One of the only good things that came out of my time with Kairos was my education. My teachers insisted I might be trained on the proper way to speak with the royal court. I was frequently mistaken for someone older, so I think I got away with a lot more than I could have otherwise. For all their failings, they made sure I was properly educated. My favorite class was learning how to talk to people into doing what you wanted without using magic. Can you believe that? Why in the world would you risk it? But it was a fascinating subject. Can you teach me some tricks? This is subterfuge, really? Okay. Certainly, Fate Minor. I don't remember how much of the training I remember, but I'm sure I can help you out. Okay, well, you're gonna stay here, and I'm gonna leave. And we'll see you soon. Probably. Spire rest bonus. Interesting. Well, the good thing about this is we're pretty much done here. And we didn't have to do anything about the Bane. Maybe that's because the, maybe this favored actually took care of the Bane already. I guess maybe that would have been impacted by our choices during Conquest. Interesting thing to think of anyways. Because I didn't have to do anything here. This was pretty much just talking. Anyways, I think we'll take a bit of a break here. And we'll pick up next time and finally see who exactly Tunot is. I probably should take a break anyway, it's just because I don't think it's a great idea to be talking for a long period of time with a sore throat. In any case, thanks for watching. My name is Krendis, and I'll see you next time. And subscribe if you like. In any case, see ya.